welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. This is Pastor Errol Williams here for another Friday night men's talk, and I'm so excited that our three guests with me tonight are here: Bishop Ray, the man I call the incredible Errol Lynch, and Brother Rob Clark. And in a moment, we will be joining each other to have a discussion on Black Lives Matter. As you have no doubt heard that the case in regards to George Floyd is going to court eventually, and there's a lot of discussion going on around the world, and so we are joining in that discussion, looking at what we could be doing, should be doing, and so on. But before we get into that, just want to say hello to everyone and thank you so much for joining me tonight. Do appreciate those of you that are here, and we're just getting ourselves ready. So we will get started in the next 2.5 minutes, and just to make sure that the sound and everything is working well. So thank you for joining us, and that will be helpful if you could actually share, the link on your Facebook page or your YouTube page or etc. Go ahead and share the link, and we will get started in a moment. I want to say welcome to Jenny and Claudie. Jenny, I hope all is going well with regards to arrangements that has been made. Sorry again about what you're going through. May the Lord bless you. So everything is working perfectly. Just to say as well, those of you, if you're I was just about to say actually that if you're in the Wembley area, but then I realized we are in lockdown, so should I put it another way? If your service doesn't start before 11:30, come and join us. We're having Father's Day service at our local church, so we'd love to have you if you can join us. But if your service is on, go to your service, right? That's where we want you to go. Support your pastor and the team there, and go to your service. Also, just to let you know as well, we do have prayer going on all of next week as normal. Can you believe I forgot that we were praying this morning, and I woke up at 11 o'clock rather than 6. And so they had prayer without me. Can you believe that? I couldn't believe it, but that's what happened to me anyway. And that's the first one I've missed actually in 3 months. In 3 months, that was the first one. So that was not too bad. So thank you for joining us. So I'm going to get the show on the road, because I do know we have a lot to talk about. So I'm going to bring the team on, and the team will now join me. And these are wonderful friends of mine. They're my brothers as well in the Lord, and educated men, and they're very wealthy as well. They're rich men as well. They're rich in the Lord. They're rich in the Lord. Why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourself? Let's start with our Bishop, and then Errol, and then go.
Good evening, everyone. I wish Pastor Errol will let me know where the wealth is, but there you go.
These are rich in the Lord.
Okay. My name is Raymond Vieira. I'm the Southwest Regional Bishop, along with my colleague, Bishop Bernard Morris, and it's a pleasure to be with you today.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Errol Lynch. I'm the local men's ministry leader for the Church of God of Prophecy, Gloucester Street in Wolverhampton, and I'm a learning and development consultant. And it's a pleasure to be with you this evening, and I'm looking forward to this. Thank you.
And good evening again, all. For those for the first time, my name is Rob Clark. Region 4 Men's Director, member of Small Heath, Church of God of Prophecy, project management, launch manager, automotive company, and a passion for serving the Lord.
Right, you probably can hear some drilling in the background, so that may go on for a little while. My wife, she and I has made an executive decision, so she's going to continue for a little while. She can't do it at 10:30 when I finish, so hopefully we'll do that. So I want to say to anyone in the chat room, please go ahead and put any comments in there, and we will be taking them tonight. We didn't take any last week. Now, if you did make a comment last week and we didn't address it, could you put it back in for us this week so we can look at it as well? So I did say last week I'm playing the role. Let me start with one of my points. I did say last week I'm playing the role of the enemy of black people, the white man, whoever the enemy of black people is. I'm representing all enemies of black people tonight. So you can see there, the spirit of an unsaved man is dead and desperately wicked. And so I'm a white man. I want you to see me as a white person tonight. They used to call me white anyway because I was so light. So that's, so it's no surprise to me. Now, gentlemen, one of my strategies over the years has been to kill off as many black people as I can. And at the present moment, we've got 1 in 4 black people in prison, black men in prison or on probation or something like that. So what are you guys going to do about that? I'll let any of you go first.
I'm not sure what your
one
name
in 4
is tonight. Yeah,
huh?
so I don't know what your name is tonight, but whatever your name is, you said you wanted
You
to
could
kill off
you could call me, give me a name, make up a name for me, Rob.
Satan. Let me call you
Satan, yes, call me Satan.
Satan.
I like that name. I like that name, Satan.
So Satan, tell me why you want to kill off black people.
I think that there are several reasons, but I'll give you my best one. I think that you black people are quite powerful people. One of the things I've noticed is that when you sleep with our white women, I noticed that the child come out black, and we are very frightened of that. We are very frightened of you. That's why we have lynched a lot of you over the years and castrate you, because we were not happy with you sleeping with our white women, because we are afraid of that. And that's a fear that we do have. That's one of them. There's many more, but that's one of them.
Okay, so other than
what you got? 1 in 4 black men. We've got 1 in 4 black men. These are your leaders, by the way. 1 in 4 black men are in prison, or in probation, or some form of legal bunglings.
Okay.
What have you done about it, and what are you guys going to do about it?
All right, we need some clarity. We need some clarity here.
Mm.
The role that you're playing here, Errol, just time out for a little bit. You say you're
Satan, my name. Who's Errol?
Okay, yeah.
Who's
okay.
Errol? I'm Satan.
All right, good. All right. If you're Satan on a big level. So we're dealing with a more of a societal thing rather than an individual, right?
Yes.
So you're talking about being a system, being a process. Good.
That's
right.
right.
Now
That's
that we've identified that, you've said some really key things, because you are scared of black men, particularly because the way history has come forward, you're particularly scared because you used us. You took us from our native country, stripped us of our heritage. You took kings, you took queens, you separated families, you did it with violence. You took us to a country that we were not familiar with, and you made us work for you. You made us work for nothing. You sold us, and you beat us, and you brutalized us. And your fear is rooted in that action that you took. Your biggest fear is that we are going to do to you what you did to us. You see us differently to the way you see other white people. You see us as a super predator, stronger than you, bigger than you, able to cope more ably than you in an environment which is hostile to you when you're in the sun, particularly. And you fear that what we're going to do to you is we're going to take revenge. We've never said that, but that's what your biggest fear is. And I just wanted to, put it into context. That's what's driving you. We've never gone around the world taking people from their country and making them do what you want us to do. We've never done that ourselves. We're a peaceful people. And what you're seeing in today's society is the world has suddenly woken up. Many white people who look like you don't think like you. They actually have joined us in our fight for equality. We're not asking to be better than anybody else. What we're asking for is equality. And I think people are waking up to that fact. And that is what will win the day. People arguing for that which is right, which is just, which is equitable, which is fair. That's all that we're asking for. and that's the wake up call you're going to receive very, very shortly if you haven't already received it.
Okay, I will respond after one other of you. I'll respond after two of you have spoken. So I don't know if any of you else. If you don't wish to respond, I can comment on that.
Bishop Ray, you haven't said anything yet, so I'm happy to waiver my response.
Okay. Thanks, Rob. Your insecurities are based in your own masculinity, and basically, you've always dealt in oppression, and you know no other way of expressing yourself. Um, it's a sad life because it's false and it can only last for so long. History teaches us that the oppressed will always rise up. Right? It might take a long time, but the oppressed will eventually rise up and will, in our case, not take supremacy, but establish an equal footing whereby everyone is treated equally. Now, it's not a simple case of who's better than who. It's a case of fairness um,
Yeah,
and and so therefore we we understand the system has been created that doesn't allow
yeah,
us to operate freely. So the first thing for me is not to debate with you about what you're going to do because you can't touch me. The spirit lives on, and we will eventually make inroads into the political arena, the banking arena, and we will eventually control our own pound in terms of we will decide where it's spent. So I think that the responsibility you have is to, instead of letting that happen, to create an environment where everybody is accepted and don't wait for um, everything to collapse around you because you're so stubborn and refuse to address the injustice that you've created yourself. I hope that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yes, it made a lot of sense, but me and my team really don't care about all of what you've said, really, because you're right, we have stripped you of your language, we have stripped you of your country, we have stripped you of your name, we've given you our names, we've given you our clothes to wear, we changed your language and given you our language. We've even turned it around so much so that even your children hate your African heritage. We have done a great job. You mentioned the oppressed will rise up. Well, this is hundreds of years, and still all you've done is pickets and all of that. You mentioned about our system will collapse. You came up with Wall Street, and we burn it down to the ground, and set up a team called the Ku Klux Klan, which I am very proud of tonight. And you guys just have never even been able to defeat them at all. So really, what you're presenting to me here is just a few threats of words, which you've been doing for the last 400 or 500 years. We're not really threatened by that. That doesn't move us at all, Rob.
So Satan, I think as Satan is accusing and deception. Let me just give you a bit of history that you seem to have forgotten. That
Okay.
This so-called slavery is only, as you just said, 400, 500 years. As you know, life on this earth, and we talk about this earth, has been going on for some time. And so slavery is not new because as Christian brothers, we know, we see, we read it in the Bible. But where does it start talking about black and white? And let me give you a bit of history, Satan, because some argue, as I've done the history tour in Liverpool several times, that it seems to come from Ham or Noah and his sons, and and all this, and one was cursed, and they were going to be cursed out and be Africans, and they gave this deception that everybody with a dark skin is evil. And from there on, you can't trust them and all that. But let me just remind you that the person that you used to worship and kicked you out, by the way, is still my God. And as much as you feel that you're roaming this earth, and yes, you will kill a lot of us. Yes, you will oppress a lot of us, not just physically, but mentally as well. But as a Christian, and the first book in Genesis tells me that I am made in His image. So as much
Mm-hmm.
as you want to accuse and tell me this and tell me that, you will not take my mind. And so yes, you can burn down Wall Street and everything else, but as many as there are like me, we will continue to fight against your spirit, because it is a spirit we're dealing with, and you're talking through a vessel. And I know through my God, through the word of God, we will win the battle. This is just a short little blip, 400, 500, 600, and it hurts. It does hurt. You know, we've seen recently of just one, but there's been many others where the spirit seems to be running in a certain race of white people. But I know not all white people are like that. So I love my white people, I love my black people, I love my Asian people. So this deception and accusations that you're making about whatever, whatever, I can't accept. And I know you will persuade many others. But I want to let you know, Satan, even if you take my life today, right, I still will put my faith in the Lord, and there'll be many others, because there will be a judgment day. And I don't put all my faith and treasures on this earth. And I'll do what I have to do. I'll have to, and what I do is do the best I can as a Christian. I'll go in the workplace and do what I got to do. I may do the protest, I may not. I know all lives matter. So no matter what you tell me tonight or what you've told everyone in the past, I will continue, as the Lord speaks to me, to continue to spread the word that we must love everyone. All lives matter. And, you know, we wrestle not with flesh, but this spirit, we've got to rise up. So protests are great, but we've got to also make sure we are in connection with our God, because I know we'll achieve this in due course.
Yes, I will respond after one more of you have spoken.
It's if we were to consider the oppression that we have gone under, we have been subjected to. Facts have proven that you are losing. We might not have the vast numbers of executive and judges, but your system is changing. We are seeing more and more of our young people who you wrongly accuse of not being aware of their roots. They're more aware of their roots now than any time that I've known. I thought my generation, my group of people were fully aware. But what I've seen in the standard and the quality of young people that we see coming through, even within this local body, this church, I am absolutely amazed at the quality we have, and I'm blessed to have known these young people that are coming through, who are going into politics, business, commerce, everything like that. So the reality, you can say what you like, but you are fighting a losing battle, because there is those that demonstrate, but there's those that are now owning their own business. They're beginning to take prominent roles as lawyers, doctors, football stars. There are more rich black men now and women than ever before, not only in the UK, but in America, and the Caribbean is growing in terms of its stature. So Africa is a powerhouse, and just goes to show the strength and the power we have, the spirit we have, despite all the oppression, that we will overcome, and we will continue to overcome. You can't stop it. You might as well learn. You might as well learn to join. You cannot stop it. It's
There
a
you
fact.
go.
It's done.
There you go. Yeah.
You see,
Okay.
this is
No,
an
no, Earl.
interesting
No,
point.
it's after two of you. Then you could come in.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Go
Now,
ahead.
we have certainly your speeches are so wonderful. I've listened to some of them in the churches over the years, and they are absolutely fantastic speeches. And while you're in the church encouraging in each other, I want you to know that just in America in the last many years, we have allowed to kill over 260 or so black men, not particularly black women, in fact. We're after the black men, because if we kill off the black men, then the house is gonna be be affected. One of the strategies that we have deployed is that we have given more opportunities to the black women, so that they can be more educated, earn more, so that when they live with the less educated and less earning black man, it will create a kind of an inferiority superiority complex among them, and then we will see a higher rate of separation. Did you not know that 76% of single parents in the UK are black? I thought I'll let you know that. We are very, very good at that. So while you're there praying in the churches, we are actually doing things that are, your black men are in prison. They're killing off each other. And not only that, let me say this to you, and then I'll let Earl come in. I noticed the other day that, we killed George Floyd. We murdered him. And what we notice is that you all rise up around the country and begin to do all these things. But we notice you don't do it when your own blacks kill off each other. That's what we notice. You don't really worry about that. And just to make a few more points on the points you made, those white people that support black people are, that's always going to happen. We don't worry about that. Losing the battle, we're not losing any battle. We don't feel we're losing it. You mentioned rich black people. Well, guess what? We encourage them to marry our white people so that the money stays in our community. Did you not notice where the money is staying? It's not going back to the black community. We make absolutely certain of that. Anyway, over to you, Brother Earl.
Okay, you put a lot of things together. You are so rooted in your impression of black people, particularly black men. And I know why. You're scared. You're scared. You're really scared of black men.
We
You
are
held us
scared.
down.
We admit it.
Yeah,
We admit
you
it.
held us down with slavery, but we overcame slavery. But what you then did, because I'm gonna speak of the American experience, because if it happens in America, if America sneezes, then Britain catches a cold very shortly afterwards. So let's talk of the American experience first. When we came to a point where slavery was abounding, and there was a rule that came up for the abolition of slavery. You would have thought that that would have been the end of it and that we would have been free. But America didn't free the black man, really, because inside the Constitution, there was something called the 13th Amendment, which basically meant that you cannot keep a slave in America or get somebody to do what they call involuntary servitude. But what a lot of people didn't realize was that unless it said, except that person has a criminal conviction. So basically, you could go back into slavery, or you could be incarcerated, or you could have your rights taken away from you if you were to, if you wrote into the Constitution, if somebody's committed a crime, they're no longer a person. And this was your second weapon of attack, in that because slavery was abolished, the way you controlled black men particularly was that you eventually changed the law. You made the law so that it was easy to arrest, convict, imprison, incarcerate, not just one black man, but many black men. And that speaks to your statistic earlier. It's actually in America, 1 in 3 black men are said to be incarcerated, because the same rules don't apply to black men as apply to white men, because the rule for, or the statistic for white men is 1 in 17 white men will get convicted. And the key thing about being convicted is, if you are convicted, when you come out of prison, you're denied 4 things, 4 main things. There's more than 4, but you're not allowed to vote. So that means we can't vote you out of office. We're not allowed to travel. So therefore we can't get other people from other countries to support us. If you go in jail and you're convicted of a crime, you cannot bear arms. You cannot have a gun or ammunition. So therefore we cannot defend ourselves. And fourthly, what was this? There was another thing. I can't remember what it is at the moment, but there's 4 key things which are denied. But it's more than that. You also denied, we're denied employment opportunities and housing opportunities. And what we are seeing now is that people are waking up and they're seeing, oh my God, American people like yourself changed the laws so that they could keep slavery only in another form. So America is waking up. England is waking up. The United Kingdom is waking up. Europe has woken up. Australia and the rest of the world is waking up. They're seeing how unfair this is. And you will see that the first thing that will happen is people will protest. The protest is only step one, because this gets your attention to know, hey, we see what's going on. That's why you're seeing statues being torn down. That's why you're seeing throwbacks to slavery being challenged, because we are just trying to get your attention. And now we know that you're doing this and you're using the law and legislation, police forces, systematic racism, basically institutional racism, to do your work for you. We're going to stop it. We're going to stop it by changing legislation. We're going to get our people. We're going to vote you out. We're going to get you out. People are waking up. You will no longer wield power. We have seen, and we can't do it on our own as black people. That's key. We cannot do it on our own as black people. It's a fundamental wrong that society needs to change. That's why you're seeing white people waking up and joining the fight. Black Lives Matter.
I'm just waiting for one more of you before I come back in.
No,
I think
I'm just feeling. Oh, go, get your right.
I think if we look at history, and slavery was abolished in 1863, I believe the date was, but actually, in many cases, people didn't know for another 2 years that
Yeah.
that actually happened. When slavery was over, each slave was promised a plot of land, mule, get them started, and
Yeah.
again that didn't happen. Europeans went over from various parts of Europe, um, hundreds of years later, and here they were able to acquire land freely. Um, Black men were easily imprisoned. So there's an answer to all your questions. The black men were easily imprisoned for nothing, for not having a
Yeah.
job, I suppose, for.
Yeah.
And guess where they ended up? Back on the plantations, working for nothing, because they had no income. So again, within the law of the states, there was a clause where the John Crow law, where again they could be easily imprisoned. We might not have it so distinct today, but we still have problems in terms of the injustice that we see, in terms of how um, uh, a white man the other day, two victims. He was given water. His wounds were bandaged up. He was allowed to sit down, and then he was taken to prison in such a gentle way. We see the young man who went into a church and shot 9 men, and nine persons. He was then taken to. I don't know how true it is, but he was taken for something to eat before he was taken down to the prison. So yes, your statements of trying to kill us and try to persecute us, you're doing a good job. However, as I keep saying to you, from the time that we can remember, Rosie Parks, Dr. Martin Luther King, all the way through, the more you persecute us, the more we rise up, and we will continue to rise up. So you're living in a short time, and I keep saying to you, let me say this before I say something. Say that the hatred of the Jewish nation, the Jewish people, was greater than the blacks. There is something about the hatred you have for them. You don't touch them anymore because of their actual power that they have. You don't touch them. Once we have acquired that power, and I still believe in the power of the vote, I still believe in the accountability to us as a people. That's why I make sure I vote. I always use my vote. Even if I don't agree with my chosen party, I will vote for another party, and I will use my vote. It's my constitutional right. If we as a people begin to realize the strength and the power we have, and that's what you're afraid of. So it's only a matter of time. That's all I'm saying. You will kill a lot more. You will kill a lot more, but we will continue to raise it. You cannot stop the boulder from running down the hill. You can't stop it. It's impossible.
Mm.
Okay.
With all the power that you're wielding, with all the stuff you're wielding, you're afraid because black people are now going into commerce. They're, as I keep
Yeah.
saying, still coming at you. We're still succeeding, not at the rate we should
Mm.
be, but we're still going to get there. And
Okay.
eventually, you have to accept us on our terms, as you did have to do in South Africa. The
Okay.
same will happen.
Okay. You mentioned the abolition of slavery, and you're absolutely correct. And we certainly paid the dues. We paid out the dues, but we have not paid a single penny to black people, and you guys have not pressured us enough for us to pay you a single dime. So you can talk about
Yeah.
how you are praying to your God and how your God is going to help you and so on.
Uh,
But we paid the Jews gladly, but we didn't pay you guys a single dime, and there's nothing you have done to pressure us to pay you anything.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's number one.
It's
Secondly,
it's yet
secondly,
yet.
secondly, secondly, the slave ships that we used
Uh-huh.
to bring you all to through to the islands and so on. We have
Mm.
had to stop that, but have you not noticed our slave ships are now the prisons? The prisons
Mhm.
are now
Mhm.
our slave ships. And we've got men, some of your men in prison, they will never come out. They will never see sunshine again. Don't you not guys realize that we govern the media, the bank, and the government and various other institutions, and that we show you on the media what we want to show you, and nothing less and nothing more? So when you talk about certain things, we're the ones allowing you to see it. The more we persecute you, he says, the more we rise. But then you're only rising up in pickets and rising up in threats and all of those things. We have not seen anything substantial for us to really be frightened of you guys, in terms of that. And did you not know we've got people in our party? So whether it be Labour Party, Conservative Party, we've got them all over government. We've got so many people. And by the way, you guys are minorities in this country. You're in England, yes? So you're minorities. So I don't know how you guys are going to do it. And every time you raise up a leader, we kill them. Martin Luther King came, we got him killed. Malcolm X came, we got him killed. Marcus Garvey. And we've noticed that you guys are leaderless. Let's take the UK, for example. Who's your leader in the UK?
Mhm.
I'll stop there for a
Mm.
moment.
It's interesting the
I'll go
comments that
back.
you raised.
Yeah.
Go on, after you're up.
No. I'm going back to the points I raised earlier. I mean, you've done a great job. You've done an absolute great job, but it's a battle that you've won, not the war. And you're asking people with dark skin, black people, what we're going to do because of what you've done. But I'm not entering into that battle because for me, it's not against black and white. I'm talking about the spirit of racism. And it does sound like a cliche, probably on it, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's not every white man is racist. Yeah. And
Yes.
it's the spirit, and where does it come from? So, yes,
Mm.
continue killing black people because, as it's been said, you're scared. And why are you scared? Because you're scared of that war coming to an end. You know, but as I say, my leader in the UK is still God. It doesn't sound like the answer you want to hear, but I'm not looking for a black, white, or Asian leader. I'm just looking for a leader to represent me as a human being. Now we're talking about what we're talking, and I'm glad that we got Bishop Ray and Brother Early can give you the history of what's been happening and everything else, and that is great because these are telling you about the history of the black activist Martin Luther, who happened to be black. But what I'm interested in is the human race. So, and I see what you're trying to do, Satan. You're trying to get us to hate white people. But as I say, I refuse to hate white people, despite I see on the TV some wickedness who happen to be white. As I read in history, the wickedness of people who happen to be white, but it's the spirit. Because I know before this black and white thing, it was about race. It was about Romans, Jews, you name it. And so this spirit is going to continue to last while we're on this earth. But I know there's going to be a judgment time. So you can kill me, and in fact, you're probably doing me a favor because then you're taking me out of torment. But while I've got breath and while God allows me to do what I'm going to do, I'm still going to speak life and I'm still going to encourage others not to hate one another. I don't believe in a black and white uh, thing per se. Yes, I do understand people who are not spiritually minded will look that way and act that way and behave that way and try and do this, do that. But any leader in position in politics shouldn't be looking at colour. They should be doing it because law originated from God. And unfortunately, we've twisted the law that is almost against the law to do things that God abhors. So as I say, my mind tells me, the word of God tells me, to love everyone. All lives matter, including black lives. So when I see white people who have got demon possession doing what they've got to do, then yes, we're gonna counteract in different ways. And you don't like that, and you're trying to tell us that you're winning. Yeah, you're killing some black people. You're killing some white people as well. You're killing some Asian people as well. So as I say, all I say for those black people who are not spiritually minded, just be aware what we're protesting against. Don't be distracted. Be purposeful for those online because the devil is a liar. He does accuse. He plays with deception. But I'm asking those who don't believe in God, just spend a little time to read the word. It tells you about the end times and what's going to happen. And these are the signs of the end times where we're going to start fighting against each other in the name of color, which is crazy because Genesis says, let us make man in the image of God. So what's this black and white? What you talking about, devil? What are you talking about? Why are you doing it? And you're scared because of what's going to happen in the end times. But we will get through this. We will get through this.
See, unfortunately, Ray, it's not Ray, sorry,
Rob.
our colleague here, who's not calling himself Errol tonight, he doesn't see that we are all one race. If you
That's
cut
right.
yourself, you will bleed the same color as I will.
Same red.
We're all
Yeah.
one race. You've chosen to see color as a distinction between who you are and what we are. We're one race at the end of the day. You're going to see that people are waking up to the fact that they recognize that we're one race and that there's a certain group of the race that are trying to be superior to the rest of the race. And it's not fair. And I think you'll find that there are more people who are waking up to what is unequal, unfair, and they're not going to have it. They're not going to have it. They're going to stop it. They're going to stamp it out. Yeah, you're going to win for a while. You're going to win for a long while. But if you listen to the war cry that was back in Martin Luther King's day, they sang a song, and the song was, "We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome one day." And yeah, it might take a long time, but I think you're finding the nations are waking up. You talked about, some white women having black babies. Well, that's a good thing, because what you're going to find in the long term is that we're not different. We're the same. The heritage, even though they may be slightly different, at the end of the day, we're still the human race. Those kids that are of mixed heritage are still human beings. They're going to take up the fight. In fact, if you look and you make a prediction forward, I'm afraid that for you, the black person or the person of color is going to outnumber you before long. And then, you'll probably live to see a few more years, but eventually the nation will be of color. There's going to be more of us than there is of you. That's a fact. So, yeah, you can have your laws, you can have your systems. They'll work for a while, but we shall overcome. And if you follow Rob, what he said, we serve a big God, and we believe that. We believe that. At the moment, you've got systems, you've got processes, you've got institutional racism, the law, which works in your favor. But as people wake up, we're going to make a change. Change will come. A change is going to come. And you can see why the protest movements, why the black protest movements in the past have used these as the songs, because we're not giving up. We have a hope. We have a hope. And there is a better time coming for all of us.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And let me respond and then go to the chat room. That's why we love the church, because all we see the church doing is praying. And they make some wonderful speeches. There was a speech actually that we didn't like, and it was one that says, and in actual fact we liked it because it was true. It says, one of the thing I'm not sure if it was Martin Luther King says. I think it was Martin Luther King who said it. When good men do nothing. You know, I can't remember the
Yep.
rest of yeah.
Yep.
And we love that when you guys do nothing and just talk about this coming judgment and so on. So we love the church. And as I said before, 1 in 4 black men, as you mentioned, you put your statistic 1 in 3. So we're getting better. We're improving. 1 in 3 black men are either in prison on probation of some sort. We have a history of whites killing blacks, but no history of blacks really killing whites. Every time one of your leaders rise up, we kill them. America is great for whites. You know, when we talk about make America great or make Britain great, it's great for white people, but certainly not for black people. We've certainly done that. As I mentioned before, we've stripped you of your name, your language, your culture, your religion, your very rich heritage, and given you our heritage. We turned you against yourself to hate and kill each other. Look at the separation rate that's taking place, and look on the streets. Your own people are selling drugs to themselves. As I mentioned before, we have educated your black women more than your black men in order to make sure that you can't live together properly. We convince our people that black people are less than human, inferior to us. And really, they're apes from Africa, and that's what we've taught our children. And they have grown up to see that and view that and accept that. Of course, we know that not all white people are going to hate you. You black people have a chip on your shoulder, and we don't want you to get it off. We don't want you to get the chip off. We want you to keep it there. We get your black millionaires to marry whites so as to keep your money from the black community, because if it circulates we noticed in Wall Street that the money was circulating too much in the black community, so we organized the Ku Klux Klan. Look how crafty we were. We founded the slave owners for their loss. We funded them for their loss, but we didn't fund the black man, even though we made promises. You know, we always make. You know, that's why we were known for. Was it forks with something with forks and tongue, something like that. I can't remember what it was. Even the white, even listen to this carefully. Even the white churches benefited from slavery. I don't know if you've ever been to a place called Ghana in Cape Coast, Elmina Castle, where we had set up this castle to do our slave trade. And we had a church above the female prison, and we had a scripture that we used to justify having our church. Anyway, let me go to the chat room and see. So someone says, so Satan, if you know all that so much about black people, why you keep doing it to us? Is it because you know that your time is at hand? Or what time is at hand? I don't see no time at hand. We've been doing this for 400-500 years or more. What time is at hand? You'd have to tell me what time you're talking. Someone says here, we have not overcome slavery. So I'd like your view on that. Let me just read a few more. We have not overcome slavery. Satan, do you know that God is going to hold you guilty of what you're doing? Which God? We don't serve God. Your God, yes? All right, no problem. Slavery was abolished in 1865, not 1863. Okay, fine. Winston says, hello, Winston, how you doing? Winston says, good evening, all. Wasn't it African enslaving other Africans and selling them? Yes, because that was a part of their strategy. So when you guys was at war with each other, we went in and took your spoil, which was when you capture them, we take them and sell them. So not all black people were slavery. We didn't put all black people into slavery. It was only the ones we captured. That's a good point. Racism came out of slavery and is alive and well today. We saw this with the murder of George Floyd. Yes, a few black people can play football and earn lots of money, but they are in the minority. Very good point. Most of us are affected by racism and all it entails. Poverty, discrimination, injustice, separation, poor housing. Let me just give you a thought, and then I'll let you guys, all three of you could answer on those comments that you heard in the chat room. Let me give you a thought. There's a guy I know called Errol Williams, because I'm Satan tonight. But I'm going to tell you about a guy called Errol Williams, right? When Errol Williams became a Christian, I like right. When Errol Williams became a Christian, he had a problem praying to God because every time he went to pray to God, all he could see was a white Jesus. And it's because of all these subliminal pictures that we Satan have put up, the white Jesus. Have you noticed that we made Jesus white? We made God white. We made the angels white. We made the apostles white. We made the prophets white and the apostles white. And guess who we made black? Bishop Ray, are you still listening? We made the black. We made the devil black. I'd like you guys to respond to what I'm saying and also to the chat room, please. Go ahead, all three of you, and then I come back.
You are just proliferating the stereotype which we've had fed to us for years and years, hundreds and hundreds of years. It's got to the point where, if anybody listens to you, we would believe every word you say, but it's no longer like that. There's people going to wake up, and they're going to wake up and they're going to see that people like yourself are just unjust and you don't deserve to be in power. It's coming. You've admitted yourself being a truce breaker, changing the laws, changing systems, processes in order to get you away. But people will wake up to that and they will make a difference. I noticed that there's some people in the chat room talking about things like Willie Lynch as well. Willie Lynch was a construct. It was a lie. It was Willie Lynch is not a real story, but the principles that were said to be around with Willie Lynch did affect the way slave owners treated their slaves. And it was appalling. You see, the thing is, with people like the way you're talking now, if they see a black man, they see him as a super predator. They see him as something to be feared. They see him as something that is a beast. And therefore that beast needs to be controlled. And that image of us is a false one. And we need people to wake up and see that's not the image of whom we are. We have to look at people at the way in which the black woman has been portrayed. The black woman has often been portrayed as somebody who is a servant and in servitude to other white people. And that's not a true image as well, So we've got to stop this feeding of the image that we are beasts and servants, because that's not who we are. We're black, we're educated, we're talented, we're super skilled, we understand how money works. We can do better, but we need others to stand behind us in society, because we are in the minority in the United Kingdom and we are in the minority in the United States. But when you look across the world, we are the majority. So, you're defending your country. Well, it's not even your country. You're defending a system that you built when you took over somebody else's country. And that will eventually come back to bite you on the bum. It will come back to bite you on the bum. So I'll just press pause there before I say something too offensive.
Okay.
Forgive me.
I think when I use the word mentality, that we're still slaves. Was that the statement?
I think the comment was that we have not overcome slavery. That's one of the comments.
So to clarify what I meant by that,
slavery. We have not overcome slaves. Yes, if my brother could just clarify that, then that'd be great. Go ahead.
Because I could comment.
He said, most of us are affected by racism and all it entails: poverty, discrimination, injustice, segregation, poor housing, poor education, police brutality, etc., etc. So maybe that's part of what he means.
The institutions.
But that's nothing to do with slavery. That's not that for me. Slavery is totally different. And I don't know about anybody else, but I don't live in a state of defeat and believe that I have not overcome slavery. I have overcome slavery. But what encourages me is the fact that as a people, we have faced many challenges. As black men, we face negative stereotyping. We don't know our history effectively. I won't go back about that when slavery was abolished, because if you check the facts, that it was 63 that the law was passed. It was only 2 years later that it went out to the fields and people found out that actually it was 2 years before that the legislation was passed, and they kept it quiet for 2 years. And even then, the slave masters tried to keep the slaves, and some stayed because they didn't have anything to go to. Yeah, the people died in poverty by the thousands after the abolishment of slavery. Read the facts, and when no, I'm going to stop there. Now, in terms of myself, I can only speak for myself, and I know I'm speaking for a lot of other black men. Slavery doesn't actually affect my decision making process. I know it's a fact of life. I know it's it's history, but it's a reality, and we shouldn't allow people to try and forget it. It did happen, just like the concentration camps happened. Slavery happened, yeah, and we have to still voice our opinion about this. I gave a speech in one of the prominent estates in Bristol recently, and I said this: isn't it amazing that this estate of acres and acres of land, because Bristol is renowned for its slave trade, and this estate was one of the largest estates in the country, and here I am, a black man, giving a speech about injustice today. And we have come a long way. All other races were they immigrated, they were asked to come across, they went to America and they did what they did. But the black person, despite all the oppression, despite everything, yes, we still have a long way to go, but we have achieved great things and we will continue to achieve. And that's what's scaring people. So I'm not a slave. Slavery doesn't affect me, but the injustice and the legacy from that does impact upon us today. All right, I am a free person, mentally, emotionally. I'm a free person, and I don't subscribe to that principle that is still affecting me. No way. No
Thank you,
how.
Bishop.
Sorry.
Satan can call you Bishop, yes? You're happy with me calling you Bishop?
Well,
Rob.
the Bible says I have authority over you anyway. So
Okay. Rob, go ahead. I'm coming after Rob.
Yeah. No, I was listening intent. So I'm looking at the comments and hearing the comments you made from the YouTube
Yes.
chat. That in terms of slavery, that some are still in slavery, and I kind of get that comment actually, because we're talking about the 1860s when it's abolished, but well after that, and history tells us that the slave masters still found ways of making, let's put, black people slaves still,
Yes. Yes.
under the law. And one of the clever ways they did that, they made them still indebted to people, to
Yes.
their slave masters and everything else. And and I agree with Bishop Ray. I'm not enslaved in that way, but unfortunately, there's still a lot of people who behave under the slave mentality. It's a slave mentality. So there's no law that says, we're slaves as black people. Definitely 100%. But the slave mentality is still there, because, and not just with the white people, I have to say, I'm afraid, because the history of slavery is still in our black culture, and so we behave in certain ways that make us feel like we're inferior. And, I can just give you a snippet because I want to get to the point of, I'm not even going to try and talk to the devil tonight. I want to talk to the black and white people who are listening. But as black people, we avoid eye contact because as slave masters, you wasn't supposed to give eye contact you wasn't supposed, as a slave, you wasn't supposed to give eye contact to your slave master. And then that was whipped into the black man. Whipped in, don't give me eye contact. They have children. Don't give me eye contact. Don't give me eye contact. to the point. Some of us don't give eye contact. We don't even know why we don't give eye contact. You know, we go, yes, master, yes, sir, yes, sir. And it's not about and there are people who don't like eye contact, so don't get me on that one. I'm just trying to give you some snippets of slave
Mm,
mentality out
mm-hmm.
there and behaviour. You know how we're so subservient, you know, because of the colour of the skin. So there's things in our culture we still haven't got rid of ourselves. It's still embedded. So what I want to say, really, not so much to Satan, because Satan, you've just tried to deceive and accuse people tonight, right? But for black and white people out there, try and get over thinking that your skin color makes you more clever or superior than the other,
Yeah.
because it doesn't. That's just melanin.
Yeah.
That's how God created you, right? And it's got to be your mind. Stop believing what the devil has told you over the years, that the white race is supreme. It is not a colour
Yeah.
thing. If you would really study the
Mm.
history, look at the Egyptians, and by the way, Egypt's in Africa. There's a lot of popular places in the Bible, and the majority of them are in Africa. You know, and you study it if you don't believe me. So black and white people, get over about black and white, because you know, as black people, we can be also racist. You know, race is not just about a color; it's about where people are coming from, and so we've got to also be careful. And I know that most of black people know that, but there are the minority who are starting to fight for the wrong reason, for right cause. We must fight for equal opportunities and justice. But to then almost make the white man the enemy when not all the white people are enemies, that's just as wrong. So I just want to encourage everybody. I've heard what's been said, and I'm learning some stuff as well. But what I'm going to take away from this, and what can I do, is to continue to treat people equally. And where I'm being treated unfairly, and I am being treated unfairly in many places, which I won't say in public, right? But I am. I have to go away and pray to my God that to recognize I can't beat the devil on my own. But as black and white people together, and I'm seeing these protests now where it's young people, old people, black people, white people. So that's telling me we're making a difference. And the enemy, the devil tonight, he's struggling because he can see an uprising he can't control, and he never could control. You know, so yes, you've won many battles tonight, but black and white people continue doing what you're doing, loving everyone equally, treating everybody equally, and we will overcome this because all lives matter.
Right. Just before you come in, Brother Errol, you're coming in a moment.
I was going.
Just before you come in, 1 second, Brother. Three of you spoken. You know, is Satan time to speak?
Yeah, but you don't.
I know you
Get
don't.
it, John?
I know you don't
So we're
want
gonna
Satan
cut
to
you
talk. Well, let me just deal with the chat room. Let me just deal with the chat room. Just and then I go to Facebook. My brother said we are still, and I agree with my brother. We are. I'm Satan. You guys are still slaves to some extent. That's what's being said here. Bishop. I think Bishop Basil Richards. I think Brother Richard said, "Is there a lesson for Satan and all concerned to learn from the demise of the apartheid in South Africa?" A very good point, Brother Richards. I have a few comments I would make, but I'll leave that one for now. Christine says, "Why when listen to this carefully, brethren? Why when it's Asian or whites, it's on the news, yet when it's black, it goes unnoticed." Even when black on black on black and so on. Let me just go to just before we come in. Just on it says the police, George Floyd and the police officer who had his leg and his neck worked together as bouncers. There were animosity between the two of them. The killing was personal. It wasn't just because he was black. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
Pastor Errol, you are playing that role a little bit too well. Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yes, too well.
He's got experience.
Oh, dear Lord have mercy on me. The Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave, it was... Yes, thank you, Joy, for that. There's a link to that. The Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave. I know, Brother Earl, there is a thing about whether it's force or not force, but the concept, the concept behind it is
the
true.
Principle. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and then Joy says, absolutely. "Oh, come on." I'm not sure what Joy was saying. Pastor Errol is playing the role of Satan. Yes, that's right. That's right. I come against every plan. Joy
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
"I
yeah,
come
yeah.
against every
Okay.
plan of Satan." Okay, thank you. Well,
Very good. All
thank you, Joy.
right.
We have. Someone
We
said
have to
we
lick
have to
them. Yeah,
kick
yeah.
him in.
So
Okay, we have
with the
to
word, yeah,
lick
yeah.
him down. Okay, thank you. Uh, Someone said, just wondering why some of the panel are so easily expressing the idea that Satan will continue to win for a long time. So just wondering why some of the panel are easily expressing the idea that Satan will continue to win for a long time. Welcome, Pastor Paulina. Welcome, Sister Angela. Sister Angela said that in itself shows progress. So maybe something what you guys were saying shows progress. Paulette says we are still struggling until we face each other, I suppose, and stop fighting. We need to stop fighting each other and unite. Now, let me just make a comment before two of you come back in. I think we just got a few minutes left. I'm going to share with you what I think would hurt Satan. I will do that in my roundup, but let me say this: I don't think I think some of what I've heard is good, but I'm not so impressed with the strategy that you guys have shared with me tonight as to what could really move the enemy. You with me? I understand what you're saying, Rob, in terms of the Lord, and I take that and I dig that, and I come back to that maybe later in my summarization. But I'm not so sure if, are you saying, Rob, that prayer alone is going to do it? You with me? You're just going to stay in the church and pray while we kill you off? Are you with me? Is that what you're saying?
Mm.
That am I going to be defeated that way? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're all
No,
saying, that you guys going to stay in the church and
Nope.
defeat me, but you're not going to do nothing, but you're just going to, I'm going to be defeated? Go ahead.
No,
prayer,
you're
prayer for
talking
me is
to
a
a people.
prayer for me is a
Let's
two-way conversation.
sorry, Rob, my apologies. I just take one each.
Oh,
Yeah, I would suggest I give you guys 5 minutes each, and then you can just do your final bits and pieces. Whoever want to go first, unless we got 15 minutes left. That's the point I'm trying to make. 15, maximum
Okay.
20. Go ahead, whichever. Let's take Rob. Let's take Earl first, Rob, because he had his hand up. Go ahead, and then we come to Rob. Go
Oh,
ahead.
bless you. I want to raise a point which Rob raised a few moments ago when he was speaking. He said that, many black people have taken on the slave ship mentality and they behave into that role because they've been, they won't make eye contact. It works the other way as well, in that many people who are non-black, not of color, see black people and believe they are to be treated in a particular way. They see a black man and they go, oh, super predator, beast. He needs to be treated in a more harsh way than maybe I would treat a white man. Let's go fast forward now. George Floyd, police officer sees him, minor misdemeanor maybe, supposedly using a fraudulent banknote, which was apparently found not to be fraudulent. The way they incarcerate black people is far more brutish and terrible than they would do their own white people. And not only that, they know they can get away with it because the law or the system comes to their defense. Why is it that no white police officers have, or many white police officers have not faced justice and gone to jail and served prison sentences for the crimes that they've committed? Now, the worst thing is if you can't see that if this goes on and on, eventually you will tweak the lion's tail and there will be all out bloodshed. That is what will happen. Black people, white people, people of color will fight. It won't be allowed to happen. There will be bloodshed across the entire streets. People will die. Police will die. People in government will die. White people will die. More black people will die. But hey, what's the point? We're dying already. Notice this, people will go out because if they're prepared to go out and protest during COVID-19, a pandemic where we are dying more in proportion to other populations than anything else, what have we got to lose? So if this does not stop, you will be killed, or your parents will be killed, or your kids will be killed, or your loved ones will be killed. Nobody's going to come out of this with any kind of glory whatsoever if this is allowed to happen. We need to realize that, look, we're equal. We're of the same race. There is no black race, white race. And what needs to permeate and justify the behavior of all of us is good principles and values. This is what's going to govern the way we behave. You won't be in charge all the time. Now, look at South Africa. Somebody mentioned South Africa. South Africa has the majority of people in there which are black or of not non-white. But when South Africa actually came to a black majority government, did we find lots of blacks going around the country killing white people? No. In fact, they call it a rainbow nation. And to this day, there's still problems, but blacks aren't going around killing whites. Could that be the situation in the United States? Could that be a situation that happens over here in the United Kingdom? I actually think so. So it doesn't have to take too long if enough people believe that the world is made up of the human race, not just black and white people that have to compete. And white people are not superior to black people. And we've got to get people to see us as human beings. At the end of the day, that's what counts. But as long as we see each other differently, it's going to end up in violence.
Excellent. Just as you see, I've switched roles now. I hope Rob will be more pleased with that. I'm no longer Satan. I'm not Errol Williams. But let me just read a comment before Rob comes in. Someone says we need to unite. Someone said, I'm puzzled why the bishop is shaking his head at the suggestion that slavery isn't dead. Slavery is still here in the form of racism. And then someone said, this is what Satan wants. Welcome, Dennis. If the black community want to create legacy for the future generation, there must be tangible examples within the community to follow. Have we achieved equality? No, we still have a long way to go. We need to wake. We need to wake if our leaders are saying that we have achieved parity with white people. Okay, Rob, your last comment, and then Bishop will end off.
Yeah, thank you. So, I mean, no apologies. I'm sticking to my script in terms of God, and prayer does work, because look at that, you've changed your background straight away. So I'm glad for that. But but you asked me the question earlier about prayer, and is that it? Well, prayer is a two-way communication, right? So I'm asking God for help. I'm asking God for direction. What do I do? And as I say, I don't, because I'm on air and everything. I don't want to, because.
Yes, no.
But what I'm saying is, every day I pray. Every day I pray, more than once a day, one time in a day, and I pray specifically for a certain thing. That, Lord, when I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, I want you to give me direction. And what I'm praying for really is social justice. I don't pray for me per se. I pray to make a difference. And I pray to make a difference in high places, and that's every day. And I look at Jesus. Again, I make no apologies for those who are probably watching who are not Christians, but I look at Jesus. He was an activist. He was in the community. He was doing the Black Lives Matter. He was doing all lives matter, and he would protest, and sometimes even his own people turned against him, right? Because motive. Motive is important. We can have good motive and bad motive. And no matter what movement we're part of, we have to ask ourselves individually, what's our motive? Because if our motive isn't to serve God, to please God, then what are we serving? And so it's good that we can have protests. It's good that we can see progress. But I'm still challenging these movements. What's your motive? Because if it's all about black and whites, I think we're slightly missing the point. I do get it that we need equality. I do get that. But I do believe, black or white, there is a slave mentality in the community. There's a thing about oppressing others, not just by a colour thing, but by status, roles, and title. At this moment in time, I'm glad to see people not putting up with the rubbish that's been going on for years, especially through the police, education, and so on. I'm glad that's happening, but I don't want our people to lose focus of what we're fighting for. And what we're fighting for is equality. There shouldn't be hatred among somebody else. But it's hard for somebody who doesn't have a God or have a faith because they don't believe in spirits behind the individual. And so, us as individuals have got to encourage others that we're not about hating Errol or hating Rob. We're hating the spirit behind it that suggests that the color of your skin makes you more supreme or more important, or even your
Mm.
class. Because we see that in history, we see that today around the world, that because of your name, right, you are more important than somebody else. And so people live in poor areas because of their caste.
Mm.
God didn't make us like that. Man has
Excellent.
done that.
Mm.
Why? Because we seek power, we seek
Greed.
status. And even the
Greed.
churches. I'm not talking Church of God of Prophecy per se. I'm saying even people in churches have used scriptures, and that's where slavery came from the scriptures to kind of enslave dark people because that's what the Bible said, and it didn't say that. And they
Mm.
misquote it because they've got the wrong motives. So I'm just encouraging people, I can't control your mind. I can control my mind. I can persuade you and influence you, but the slave mentality, in my opinion, is there. It's there, black, white, whatever, whatever. And what I'm saying is that we've got to, renew that mind, and use the scriptures, use people, like on this panel, are very positive to get them out of there because I'm saying that because I can see individuals who behave with a slave mentality, the way they speak, the body language, the confidence is gone. And I'm saying you can
Mm.
do it, but it's going to take more than
Amen.
me for them to overcome that.
Yeah, excellent, Rob. Let me just before Bishop come in, I just read from Facebook. It says we are still struggling until we face each other, I suppose, and stop fighting. We need to stop fighting each other and unite. Sister Angeles Clark says my commitment was in relation to what Bishop Ray said. She goes on to say unity and collaboration with prayer will move the enemy. Paulette says God is moving. Paulette Ross says God is coming. Only Him that can save us. Paulette agrees. For years they are doing it, and someone says, "Tell them, brother." That's that. Someone says South Africa is making the people hungry. Okay, we have been here a long time. What have we achieved? We need to pray. God is the one. Jesus represented social justice. Someone says, "Tell them, brother." Bishop Ray, over to you, sir. 5 minutes, and then we. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know Satan's gone silent. We bound him, but
Yeah.
uh,
Amen.
but where where we're coming from is this. I was reading. First of all, I was in the States and I was asked to speak at this church in New York. I won't mention the church, but it was in New York, and they have a different. They have a policy or a mindset. They're not slaves. What they're facing is oppression, a system that is geared to to them being oppressed. They recognize that, and as a people, they have been fighting for years for justice. Um, the church has been quiet because it has directly benefited in many ways from the proceeds from slavery. The church was paid millions because of the loss of plantations and land that they had to give back um, because their investments were gone. So the church has a responsibility. I sent a comment recently that we as a people, and we're still left out of the inner circle as a black people, we're not being invited to sit, to give advice and to share our concerns with the establishment concerning the treatment of our people. We're still in that situation, but that's oppression. That's where oppression is. Um,
Yeah.
the Americans are fighting, the Black Americans, and to a degree we are fighting for justice. Justice is
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
we're all fighting for. We
Yeah.
don't. I do not believe in reverse. The term has slipped me now. I do not believe in this thing where let's give the black man a job because he's been oppressed. Let's lower our standards. I don't believe in that.
Positive,
Because
positive
what it's
action.
saying is that you believe, establishment, that we are less than
Mm.
you. So therefore you have
Yeah,
to lower the standard for us to
yes,
get in.
yeah.
Don't lower the standards, just give us an opportunity to show you what we can do. Yeah? I can still remember, and I said it on this program, I can still remember when a prominent football manager, who's now a sports pundit, said black men can't make it in football, and he's on television now. They cannot
Mm.
make it in football because they're too heavy in the bottom, their thighs are too
What?
thick. Yeah, you know the person.
What?
I've
I
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Liverpool.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Say
yeah,
no
yeah,
more.
yeah. You're getting
No,
there.
we're not
You're
supposed to
getting
be
there.
good footballers. What a lot of rubbish, eh?
So at the end of the day,
Jeez.
that system still runs prevalent in society today. So we have the slave Bible that was used to oppress God's people, the black man. The church was silent in many ways, and I think, and forgive me if I'm wrong, I thought I heard the statement, "We're all prejudiced in some way, racist in some way." Well, let me say, black people cannot be
Prejudice.
racist.
Prejudice.
Black people cannot be racist because racism
Mm,
is based in power. When you have
yeah.
power, that's where racism is. Black people can be prejudiced against something that they don't like, or unfairly
Mm.
treat people, but racism is based in the establishment. Slavery
Mm.
and all these things, um, in some parts of the world still exist today, um, but it was nothing compared to what our people went through. Nothing.
Mm.
Martin Luther King
Yeah.
was killed not when he was fighting for civil rights, but when he shifted his argument from civil rights. And by the way, you cannot have civil rights if you don't have human rights. You have to have human rights first before you have civil rights.
Mm.
Okay. Um,
Yeah,
Martin
I
Luther
remember
King
that.
was killed when he tried to change his point of view and go to the financial status
Economic
of the black
action. Yeah,
economic
Mm.
yeah.
action. That's when
Economic
the
action. Yeah,
white
yeah, yeah, yeah,
became
yeah. I'm with you.
he became frightened of what was going to happen.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Let's
Once
give
Martin Luther King
some
was fighting
people. Yeah,
about, oh come on, give us an
economic.
opportunity, let them carry on.
Yeah,
They're not going to get it. But the moment
yeah,
you shift it,
yeah.
and as Malcolm X said, we must break free from the slavery mentality,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Mm.
And again, they killed him. So
Mm.
they were dealing with the financial ability of the black man, the black pound, the black dollar. If we get that right, and we're now beginning to see, now listen to this. If you check out the World Bank, more and more black nations are coming out of the financial pressures that the World Bank was putting on them, and they're
Mm.
scared because that's where the money was coming from. So we
Yeah.
are making success. We are making progress. It's slow. It's sometimes not recognized, but
Mm.
I take courage, and let us not buy into this um, negative opinion. Oh, the black man is not going to achieve anything.
Yeah.
He is. You just look and see what's happening. You know, I'll leave it at this one point. We're still at the point where if you're watching a film, you're counting the minutes before the black man dies. We're still there in that scenario where we are. We're still there.
Oh
We
man.
say if he lasts it now, come on. If he lasts the whole film, you're thinking, wow,
No,
it's
Eh,
man.
amazing.
If it's Will Smith or Morgan Freeman, you're all right, man.
But yeah, yeah, then they last the whole film. Yeah, but you're sitting there waiting. When is he going to die? Because so we're still in that mentality, and we see it happening over and over again. The government needs to change. Society needs to change. They will only change when we begin to make inroads in those areas. They will not change on their own will. It's when we begin to say, right, we have the power. We want to see change. We don't want to oppress people. We want equal opportunity. That's all I
Excellent. Thank you very much, Bishop. I'm just going to share 7 things that I see as probably what some of coming out of this discussion that I think if black people do would really put us in a powerful position. Number 1 is we need more inspired leaders around the country, around the world, to just do what they're led to do. Not just one leader, but like Bishop Ray, what you're doing, in Bristol, Errol, what you're doing in Birmingham, and Rob, and so on. And we need more leaders around the place, just to work on good programs, whether it be economical, educational, whatever it is. Not so much self-centered, but people-centered. Not necessarily just black people even, but people who may need the support. And I think that's one thing that we continue to do. The second thing I see is education. I think Bishop Ray, you mentioned this last week about educating our, not just black men, but just educating black people, whether it be history, whether it be science, whether it be spiritual, whether we need to open up, black schools, or whatever. We need to see more even men in the education system in terms of, sitting on school governors and, that type of hearing for education, just pushing especially our black boys to achieve. And I know that Sister Angela Clark, who is here, is doing quite a lot towards, RAFA and education. We've even got the the business, what's it school called in Birmingham that was set up there? What's it called?
King Solomon.
King Solomon School. Yeah, absolutely. And more of those, over the next 50 years or so, pushing education. The third thing I see, as you mentioned, is, economic power. You know what I mean? Financial power. Like the idea that you're working on there, Bishop Ray, and seeing more of that, going forward. So build that economic strength. The fourth thing I see, which I thought about this last week actually, is to see black countries like Nigeria, Jamaica, and other black countries really pulling their weight in leading the charge in working. I hear a lot about corruption. I don't know the facts behind it, but it would be good to hear about Nigeria stepping up the plate. We hear a lot about China, we hear about Japan, we hear about South Korea. You know what I mean? But it'd be good to hear about Nigeria, about Ghana, about Jamaica in a positive light, that they're really, that type. I think they can help as well. The fifth thing I see, and this is not in any order of priority, but I must say, Brother Rob, you really had a powerful impact on me tonight. Maybe that's the reason why I switched from Seatan.
Yeah, man.
So I think the constant testifying of Jesus, I don't take the idea that the churches are not doing anything. I think churches are doing something. It may not be that we don't see everything, but I think the church just continue pushing Jesus' agenda, as well as pushing their social agenda, economic agenda, whatever the church is doing. Just keep pushing that. Just keep on working on that. The sixth thing I see, and I really think this is a powerful one, is black families staying together. Black husbands and wives staying together, because when a family breaks, it really destroys that family. That family becomes it's broken. Don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. If yes. June and I, we have 5 girls, we have 5 grandchildren, and so on. That's it. And so if June and I separate, you know what I mean? It kind of break that togetherness. Are you following me, Rob? It breaks that. And I think that, yes, and I think that the more black families stay together, stick together, work through the challenges, it's sending a very powerful signal, and it's helping our black boys as well. And finally, what I would say, which is an additional, and I would say, that there needs to be an intentional program towards black boys in particular. That's, I mean, it's almost as if what I'm saying is there needs to be extra work done in that department, whatever that work is. So those are the things that I think that if we as black people continue to push that agenda, I don't see how in the next 50 to 100 years we're going to be still in the same position. Does that make sense? And I think the point made tonight, which was powerful, is that when a black man came into power in South Africa, he didn't take revenge. He didn't sought revenge. And I thought that was a very powerful point that was raised. And those are my thoughts. But I'd love to give you guys 1 minute, but 1 minute means 60 seconds because I need my wife to, 1 minute means 1 minute. So if you could just take 1 minute just to round off for us, maybe go start with Rob. Just 60 seconds. Set your watch for me.
60 seconds.
60 seconds. Go ahead. Whoever first, go ahead. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
So, for those watching, then you saw online how prayer can change things, in a session. So for one, I like the summary that's being made, and the key here is we work together. Whatever the issue is, we work together. You start within your home, and if you can, start with a united front from your home, then into your community, your churches, we make a big difference. But we do need to be intentional. I love that word. In everything we do, we need to be intentional. All I say is, make that, God focused, God specific, and not self-focused and being selfish. Yeah, and I feel we're making inroad. All this noise and distraction, it's racism today, it'll be something tomorrow. It's a distraction. But if we can do that, as just been said, we'll go a long way. Black and white.
Yeah, but progress is being made. Go ahead, Bishop, and then.
I thank you for the summary. The summary really summed up most of what we need to address. Let us be positive and let's not believe the narrative, the false narrative about us as black people. And growing up over the years, I've seen changes. When I went to Atlanta the other day, it was just, it's a different country, different state from what it was many years ago. And that goes for many states in America. That's why we see the fear that's coming, because people are afraid of losing their power. But you know what? I believe when we see everybody being treated equally or as human beings, let's say that, because what we saw is that there was I'm trying to choose my words. When you don't see the other person as a human being, then you lose all sense of humanity. And for me, when we need to look at that mindset and say, look, we're human beings. We're all created in the image of God. Guess what? We were here a long time, thousands of years before everybody else, and that's a fact. Yeah. If you look at history, if you look at Egypt, you look at Africa, we were here, and we will still be here long after. So please, let us look to God. I'm doing the Rob thing now. Let's look to God and trust in God, but actually, let us also trust in ourselves. Be positive in our thinking. There's nothing we can't do, nothing at all. Because if we can do this under the oppression that we face, we can do mighty things. God bless.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wonderful. Errol.
Give me 6 points. 6 points. Number one, my apologies because I don't feel like I've answered very well as a panelist tonight. And the reason is the topic is massive. It's taken hundreds of years to get to where we are tonight. So it's not going to just be solved or really clarified in a few moments like we have on this call. But, nonetheless, progress is going to be slow. And with God's will, we will see a change. We will see a difference. And we really need to see a difference in 3 key areas to kick off with. Number one, legislation. A police officer should not be able to kill a black person using a chokehold or any kind of brutish behavior We got to cut that out first of all. Legislation needs to change, and with God's will, legislation will change. Not only that, we need to see a change in reform in the institutions and stuff like that. Because what's the point of seeing a police officer kill somebody, and then they're going to go into a system where the police convict or don't convict their own police? That needs to change. It needs to have a complete reform of not just the justice system, but the education system, housing, incarceration, and all sorts of things like that. So I'm making it real practical here. With God's will, we'll change, or we'll need to change the reform system. And now I'm going to be really radical. So get ready for this one. I think we should have reparations. In other words, pay black people back for what you took from us in the first place. Give us back the billions that you took from us in the first place. And that clearly isn't going to happen in a heartbeat. I don't think anybody would necessarily see that happening, certainly not in my lifetime, I don't think. However, the difference is if we don't get that money from people who've taken it from us, let's make sure we circulate the money that we do have within our own communities, so that we can build an economic base. And with God's will, we can do that.
Gentlemen, I want to say, wow, I enjoyed part of this session. Some of it I didn't enjoy.
Yeah, the part where you were the devil,
I'm afraid of Rob now. So I have to watch out for Rob and make sure I don't get in Rob's bad book. But I want to say big thank you guys for tonight. It truly was good for me to be here, and thanks to all of those on Facebook and YouTube who contributed. We're always not going to agree with each other. That's just the way life is, and nothing we can do about that. But gentlemen, thank you very, very much, and no doubt we'll be back next week. Certainly, it's men's night, and we're trying to get. Yes, go ahead.
5 seconds. There's a documentary, you mentioned it already, but for those who haven't, 16 Shots, I think it's called. And it's a documentary I'd urge anybody to watch. It's about the injustice in killing a certain black person in America in 2014. Black Lives Matters are on the scene. Brilliant documentary. It's called 16 Shots. Got to watch it from start to end, but it shows you the progress that is being made in reforming the police.
16 Shots, excellent. I hope it's on. Yeah. I hope it's on. What's it called? Anyway, I'll look it up. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate that. Thank you guys very much. Yeah. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys lots. Thanks for joining us tonight. Take care. And that was truly an amazing session. I wouldn't say I enjoyed playing Satan at all. I certainly didn't. But and we had a great discussion tonight, and to God be the glory for that. Just to remind you, we do have what is it called now? We do have Father's Day. If you don't know, Father's Day is going to be on this Sunday, the 21st of June. So in Wembley, we've got a service planned, and so we're looking forward to that. I don't know what they have planned, but it's not going to be the same as how it was last year because we're not in our building. So it's a Zoom Father's Day service. So if you want to join us, do come and join us. All the details are on our website, in fact, crgop.com, and it will be there by Sunday at least. So you can join us for that. But I also want to announce that we do have our evening service, Illuminate, and we have Bishop Stephen Masilela with us, and a powerful speaker, in fact, and we're glad to have him. And the youth continue their youth focus, this time with Kelly Madden from Region 5. Beautiful young lady, and she will be leading the youth focus. And we've got a lot of other things planned as well. So join us for Sunday evening. You can actually watch it from Zoom if you prefer to watch it from Zoom. The ID's number is there. So go ahead and take a shot right now, but you can watch it from Zoom. You can also phone in as well. So if you don't have a camera that you can use to view it from, then you can actually phone in on the number there, 0203 051 2874, and then you put the ID number and then the hashtag. I think sometimes you have to press the hashtag twice to get in. And so do join us for our Sunday evening service. As I mentioned before as well, we do have prayer going on every day of the week. Since the shutdown, that's what we have done, and it's gone very, very well. We have an average of 30, I would say. Well, we always have at least 30 people between Facebook and Zoom. So we send it to Facebook. So between Facebook and Zoom, it's a minimum of 30 people. And I would say it goes up sometimes 50 and so on. People who actually come and join us. Our online Bible studies are Monday to Friday, all of next week. Youth night is Wednesday, men's night is Friday. If you'd like to be on the show and there's this program, just let me know. You have my number. Please contact me and I'll be able to consider that. I also want to say we have set up a virtual funeral service. So if you want to know more about it, go to crgop.com virtual/virtual and find out more about the virtual service, and you can find out what we do and how we do it. So Bible studies tonight was truly awesome. I must say I didn't enjoy Rob too much, because he upset me a little bit when I was playing Satan, I must say. But I love him though. I love him now. Now that I'm Errol Williams. I didn't like him when I'm Satan, but I like him now. But God is good. And I want to repeat those 7 things just as I go. That I think that, and I would say we are working on them. So it's not like we are not working on these 7 things. It's not like it's something new. I think it's been worked on over the world, and the more we continue working on them, I think that the more victory that Black people will achieve. And as rightfully said, Black people is not out to take revenge and to trample over or walk over white people or any people for that matter. We are people who are loving and people who are very kind. So number 1, we need to encourage more inspired leaders to continue doing what they're doing all over the world. And there are lots of leaders around. We've got New Testament, we've got the Church of God Prophecy, we've got many others, leaders in the community. Just I want to encourage you, do what you're doing. If you believe that God has called you to lead where you're leading, do a good job where you are. You may not see much change in your time, but guess what? Somebody will come up and take up from where you've left off and carry the charge through. So do the best way you can. Inspire, be a leader where you can. I don't think I was called to change the world. That's not my job, but I'm going to lead where I am, my family, my extended family. I'm going to be a great leader in the church where I am and in my business and so on. So if you're a leader, a Black leader, wherever you are, just do the best job you can. Study more about leadership, find out more about leadership, be an inspired. And what I mean by inspired actually is a God-centered leader. I'm not suggesting that anybody else can't do a good job, but the more inspired you are by God to lead, I think God will use you in that place. Secondly, we need to focus on education. And I would say to all those listening, are you involved in the education of your children? I was involved in the education of my children every step of the way as best as I could. I was a school governor and all of that. I sat in the education committee in the London Borough of Brent for a year and so on. I was there doing my little bit. I was there with my children. I was trying to educate them every morning. I had a service with my kids every morning for 18 years, every morning. So the way it worked for me was I got up at 5:30 and I prayed from 5:30 to 6:30 with a few brethren. Then I came home, got the children up, and from I think it was 6:45 to 7:30, 45 minutes every morning, Monday to Friday, Daddy had his school, which was his church really. We even had neighbors coming into that. So education is key. Not Martin Luther King, but Nelson Mandela made mention that you can change a nation through education. And I believe that. I really believe that. So the more we work in education, I love what Rafa is doing through Angela Clark and many other people, what King Solomon is doing in Birmingham. Just continue doing what you're doing. Yes, there will be racism and there'll be indifferences, but do what you're doing where you are. Educate your children well. I love what Sister Shez did with her son as a single mother. I really don't even know how she got to find the finances, almost £100,000 to send her son to become a pilot. I mean, I'm amazed how she did it as a single mother, but she did, and I commend that type of thing. And what she also did was she made sure that her son was educated in a black school, and she had to pay for that all the way through. I mean, absolutely amazing. But she made that sacrifice to do it. So make the sacrifice for the education of your children, and do the best you can to see to it that they get the best education they can, the very, very best that they can. Thirdly, as I mentioned about financial empowerment, you know, one of the things which our parents did, they all did, most of them all did this. They bought a house when they came. They was only staying for 5 years, but I wish what they had done was they had continued buying houses. Does it make sense? So they bought one. I wish they had bought two, but they was really only staying for 5 years, so they really didn't make that plan. So we now, the next generation, should take over from them, right? And buy a house, buy a property. One of the best way of financial security is really through property. I wouldn't say it's the only way, but one of the best ways through property. So buy up property, buy up houses. One person said to Bishop T.D. Jakes that a lady said she was only messing around when she started into property, and now she's got so many property. And Bishop T.D. Jakes said to her, continue playing, continue messing around, and get more. So I want to strongly say to all of us, those of you especially who are into property, just do the best that you can. I want to say to Sarai, I'm not sure if you're listening, just keep going, sis. Just keep on going with the property. Bishop Ray, just keep on going. Just keep on going. Wouldn't it be wonderful that when you do your will, you're deciding to leave 10 property to your children, and so on and so forth. So I think our parents did a great job. They bought one house. That's fantastic. Of course, it'd have been great if they'd bought 2 and 3 and 4. Some of them did, but you know what? We can now take that one house and multiply it. Does that make sense? And get another one. And it's not just about house, but about business that you're in. If you're a barber or you're, a caterer, just continue and support black businesses. You know what I mean? Support them as best as you can. Find out where they are, research where they are, and support them. And I think that we can build an economic base that way. I'd love to send a message to all the black nations, fourthly, like Jamaica and Nigeria and Ghana and other black countries, is to continue to do the best you can, rule out all of those injustices and greed and so on, and just to run those countries really well. And to be a strong voice. And I love Nigeria. I love Nigerians. I really do. They're Africans. They're my brothers and my sisters. I love Ghana. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm Ghanaian. That's where I think I was taken from and sent to Jamaica. I believe that's what happened to me. That's my own personal view. I've done no research. That's my own personal, off the top of my head view. So I love Ghana. I've been there a few times. I love it. It's an amazing place. So I want to see those countries just excelling in sports, in football. It's amazing when they come on to World Cup. I'm supporting Nigeria. I'm supporting Ghana. I'm supporting the Cameroons. Man, I'm supporting them. I still support England. Not that every black person support England, but I do. I support England, the England football team. But I want to see those black nations rise educationally, rise economically, rise in powerful ways, through technology and so on and so forth. So I think that is a powerful message that would help black people all around the world. Fifthly, I would say, as Rob pointed out, just continue talking about Jesus. And the church people often knock the church, that the church is not doing much. I beg to differ. I think the church is doing a lot, actually. When I talk about the church, I'm not talking about the church where I'm at only. I'm talking about churches collectively around the world. Churches are doing quite a lot. So I beg to differ. But sometimes we speak only out of where we are and where we're at. There's a lot of missionaries on the field in different places doing things. There's millions of pounds churches are spending in helping in poverty and injustices and preaching the message and feeding people and so on. I take, for example, Bishop Trotman. Every month they're at Covent Gardens feeding the homeless people on the street. That takes some effort to do and a lot of money. They're feeding around 200 people. I've been there. I've seen it. I was shocked. I'm the egg man, right? When I go there, they put me in the egg. So I serve the egg. Someone fries the egg. So they fry the egg on the street and the Strand. I think it's the first, I'm not sure if it's not the first weekend of every month. I can't remember. I think it's the third weekend of every month. A Covent Garden. Not Covent Garden, sorry, the Strand. And my God, they're doing an amazing work there. And that's just one church, if you see what I'm saying, right? And other churches are doing this over here, and they're doing food banks, and they're feeding those people. And I say, just continue to do it. Continue to pray, church. Continue to pray for equality. Continue to pray to your God. It's amazing that when it comes to Egypt, right, that God answered the cry after 400 years. At least he answered the cry. Someone says God is, he may be late, but he's always on time. It's that type of thing. I don't think he was late. I just think he was right on time. So I say to the church, continue to pray. And, someone says faith without works. Of course, the church is praying and the church is working. The church is doing what it can. Even Bishop Tedrow was talking about, on Tuesday about, churches coming together. They've always been coming together. Churches have always been working together to do a variety of things in the community. So I say to the church, continue doing what you're doing. Continue praying. Continue to feed the poor and the homeless, black and white. Continue to do that, because as was pointed out tonight, a lot of the people that was on the march and so on were white people, and they were supporting, and the message is reaching them, and they are supporting the Black Lives Matter and so on. So I would say to the church, continue to pray, continue to testify about Jesus, and continue to do the work in the community that you're doing, because the church is doing quite a lot. And you got to understand that the church is doing it with its own money. It's not getting money from the government. It's not getting money from charities. Maybe some churches are, but they're getting money from the members' tithe and offerings, and they're using that money to meet the needs of people in the community. So I want to say, the church is doing a great job. Can it do better and more? Of course it can. There's, one of the things I learned when I first came into the church is that the largest room in the world is a room for improvement. And of course we can all do better. And we can all do more. But I want to say to all of us, support your local church. Pay your tithe. Give your tithe into that local church. Give your offering into that local church. Support that local church to do the work it's doing. Find out what your church is doing. And if you find that your church is not doing as much as you think it should be doing, well, approach your pastor. And if you feel the Lord has led you to start something, start it. Don't wait for your church or your pastors to start it. The church doesn't govern your life or rule your life. If you decide you want to set up an organization to help pregnant women, say, or to help, young girls or young men, set it up. Who's stopping you? No one is stopping you. So, I say to the church, continue to do what you're doing. I want to say, sixthly, is that of black families in particular. I commend those black families that are working together, that are, fighting against the enemy that's trying to steal, kill, and destroy their family, and they're working together. Husbands and wives are staying together. Let's stop the divorce rate. Let's stop the divorce rate, and let's work out our differences. Let's stay together. Let's fight together, not for your sake, but for the sake of your family, for the sake of your sons and your daughters and your grandchildren. Fight, man, fight. Don't walk out on your wife or walk out on your husband because of some indifference. Work it out. I love my wife. I love my wife as much as I loved her when I first met her. Man, she was cute then, and she's still cute now. And I can hear her now. June, can you hear me? I'm telling the people how cute you are. I'm telling the people on the show how cute you are and how wonderful you are. That you're as beautiful now as when I first met you. Are you still that beautiful? Here she goes.
Thanks for the compliment.
She said, thanks for the compliment. No problem. So what I'm saying basically is work on your marriage. Work in it. It will work if you work it. And what I'm saying here is this. When we see black families staying together, working together, moving together, when we see that, it helps the black community. It works against us when we see all this divorce rate and single families and so many single families and so on. It doesn't help us in that way. But I'm saying let's fight together. Let's fight to keep our families together. And finally, I would say we need to have an intentional program or course of action towards black men or young black men. Because the enemy is against black men more than anything else I can think of in the black community. Black men are more under attack than anything else I know. We talk about racism and injustice, and absolutely, but the black man is under more attack than anything else I know. It is absolutely severe. So I think that there ought to be, and I commend those organizations who are actually working intentionally towards black men and black young men. And I wouldn't say black young men in particular because they're coming up to be our leaders. They need to be educated. In fact, the scripture says, husbands, dwell with your wives according to knowledge. So our black men need to be knowledgeable. Hosea 4 and verse 6 tells us, and Isaiah tells us this that my people are destroyed because of lack of knowledge. My people are taken captive because they lack knowledge. So we need to educate our black boys and our black men. We need to educate them. We need to work on them intentionally. I'm using the word intentionally, on purpose. It's got to be deliberate. It's something that we are deliberately focused on. Even in the church, we've got to be intentional towards them, even in the church. Because what I've noticed is that the black young girls, they're really excelling a lot in our churches. And then as soon as the young boys reach 12 and 13 and 14 and 15, if you're not intentionally working towards them, they drift. I've noticed that. They kind of drift. And I've noticed that for years. So we need to have things in place, if you like, that is, purposefully designed towards them and so on. Whatever it takes. The scripture says in Proverbs, he that winneth souls is wise, right? So maybe, there is a statement, there's a book that's out that states why men hate church. And, you'll find men on a Saturday at the football matches, the rugby matches, sports arenas, and so on. But when it comes to church, you may not necessarily see them there. You'll see the younger ones because they have to go to church. But the moment that they don't have to go to church, you don't find that they come as much as they should. So there is some progress, by the way, and I have noted progress are being made. Maybe not as fast as we would like it to be, and maybe we would like it to be quicker and faster and all of that. But patience is needed here as we work. And I'm glad people are working up and down the country, and I see that. There are meetings going on in Birmingham. There are meetings going on in London. There are meetings going on all over the place. There's a lot of Zoom meeting going on, knife and gun crime meetings, and all kind of meetings going on, and people are talking. But they're not just only talking. That's the thing. Are you with me? They are actually working on certain strategies. They're actually doing certain things. For example, last week we had, our men's conference, and we had over 200, and I think it was 258 that I counted, and I looked specifically that there was approximately around 200 men that was there, and I have the video for that and so on. And to me personally, it's educating, it's training, it's developing. Knowledge will go a very long way. And one of the things I would say in closing is this. One of the things that's delivered me from hating the white man, one of the things that's delivered me from being bitter and spiteful and want to take revenge is education through the scriptures. That's what did it for me. I became educated. I became knowledgeable of the Word of God. That's what delivered me. That's what set me free. So, no, I'm not a slave. Physically or mentally, I'm not a slave. In fact, I do a lot of training, and 99.9%, 99.999% of the training that I have done. And if Errol was here, I'd bring Errol back. If Errol is here, let me see if he's here, and he could confer this if he's still here. I think Errol is gone, because if Errol was here, I'd bring him right back. Our 99.99% of our clients are white people that we deliver training to. Errol do a lot of training in Microsoft and other companies, and I've done training for nearly 30 plus years. And I've only ever done training, apart from free training for churches, I've only ever done training for one black organization in all those 30 odd years, one. And they had to close down their business, and I had to do that training for them on a Saturday because they couldn't survive during the week because they didn't have that much staff to keep the business going. And so the point I'm making here is that, you can break through, and there is breakthrough taking place, small as it is, but it's taking place. And I see progress, not as much as I would love to see it, but I see progress taking place. I see a lot of things happening. I'm going to leave it there for now. And thanks for those of you who have stayed back on Facebook and also on YouTube. Really do appreciate you guys lots. And I know it's late. It's 11 o'clock. And I'm going to have to try and get my wife to stop working because she's just working like crazy all day. So pray for me that I will be able to get her to stop working. So hard today. So, guys, have a fantastic weekend. Errol is not here. But have a fantastic weekend and do what you can where you are. That would be my message to you tonight. Do the best that you can where you are and leave the rest up to God. God is on the throne. God sees the injustice. He sees the racism. He sees it all. Trust me. But you probably were not called into this world to change the world. But you are certainly called to do the best you can where you are. Do the best you can. Do it with excellence. It's not the amount of things that you do that's key. It's not the amount. It's the quality of what you do. The quality of it. Do it with all of your heart. Do it to the best of your knowledge and ability. You're not going to be here forever, right? So do the best you can. And God will do the rest. So we give God thanks that He's on the throne. He is not being dethroned, and He will never be dethroned from His throne. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you for contributing to tonight's live stream. We'll be back next week. So take care of yourself, guys, and your family. Until next time, bye for now.